The Baker's Apprentice. Once upon a time, in a lively village surrounded by rolling hills and fields of golden wheat, there lived a young girl named Mila. She was quiet but curious, with a deep love for the art of baking. Her dream was to become the best baker in the kingdom, creating breads and pastries that people would travel miles to taste. For as long as she could remember, Mila had spent her days watching Master Oren, the village baker, as he skillfully kneaded dough, shaped loaves, and slid them into the blazing oven. The aroma of freshly baked bread filled the air every morning, drawing the villagers to the bakery. Everyone loved Master Oren's bread, and Mila admired him greatly. One day, when Mila turned 16, she gathered her courage and asked Master Oren if she could become his apprentice. The old baker, with flour dusting his beard, looked at Mila thoughtfully. "Baking is not just about following a recipe," Master Oren said. "It requires patience, love, and a connection to the dough. Are you sure you want to take on this challenge?" Mila nodded eagerly. "I've dreamed of this for as long as I can remember. I'll work hard, I promise." Seeing her determination, Master Oren agreed. "Very well. You can start tomorrow. But remember, baking is not just about feeding the body, it's about nourishing the soul." The next morning, Mila arrived at the bakery before dawn. Master Oren handed her a simple recipe for bread and told her to begin. The dough stuck to her hands, and she struggled to shape it properly. Mila tried again and again, but each time, the dough was too tough or too soft. By the end of the day, her arms ached, and her spirits were low. Master Oren watched silently as she cleaned up the mess in frustration. "Baking takes time, Mila," he said kindly. "You can't rush the dough. It must rise slowly, and you must feel the rhythm of it. Only then will it turn into something special." Mila listened carefully. She knew Master Oren was right, but she couldn't help feeling that there was something more to learn, something magical about the way he worked with the dough. A few weeks passed, and Mila became more skilled under Master Oren's guidance. However, her bread still lacked the special quality that made his so remarkable. She noticed that no matter how hard she tried to follow his instructions, her loaves were never as light or flavorful as his. One evening, after everyone had left the bakery, Mila stayed behind to practice. As she was cleaning the kitchen, she noticed an old, dusty book tucked away on a high shelf. Curious, she pulled it down and opened it. The pages were filled with handwritten recipes, but these weren't ordinary recipes. They were ancient and mysterious, filled with ingredients like moonlit dew and a pinch of joy. As she flipped through the book, she found one recipe that caught her eye: the bread of happiness. It claimed that whoever baked it with a pure heart would create bread so delicious and full of warmth that it would bring joy to anyone who ate it. Mila's heart raced. Could this be the secret behind Master Oren's perfect bread? Without hesitation, she decided to try it. She gathered the ingredients, following the strange instructions carefully. When it came time to add a pinch of joy, Mila smiled and thought about her love for baking and her desire to make people happy. As the dough rose in the warmth of the oven, Mila felt a strange, magical energy fill the room. When she pulled the bread out, it looked perfect, golden, soft, and fragrant. Tentatively, She took a bite and felt a wave of happiness wash over her. She knew she had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The next morning, Mila brought the bread to the market. People were immediately drawn to the scent, and within minutes, the loaves were sold out. The villagers raved about how delicious and heartwarming the bread was. Word spread quickly, and soon people from neighboring towns began to visit the bakery just to taste Mila's magical bread. Master Oren noticed the sudden attention Mila's bread was receiving, but he didn't say a word. He simply observed. At first, Mila was overjoyed by her success. People praised her talent, and she was finally being recognized as a skilled baker. However, as more and more people came to the bakery, something began to change. Mila felt a growing pressure to bake more and more bread. She began to skip steps in the process, rushing through the recipe, and the joy she once felt started to fade. One day, a wealthy merchant came to the bakery. "I've heard of your famous bread," he said, handing her a bag of gold coins. "I'll pay you triple the price if you bake 100 loaves for my banquet tonight." Mila's eyes widened at the sight of the gold. She agreed without hesitation, eager to prove herself. That evening, she hurried through the recipe, barely thinking about the pinch of joy she was supposed to add. When she pulled the loaves from the oven, they looked just as beautiful as before. However, when the merchant served them at his banquet, something was different. The bread tasted bland, and the guests left feeling unsatisfied. The next day, the villagers who had once praised her began to complain. "Your bread isn't the same anymore," they said. "It doesn't bring the happiness it used to." Mila felt a pang of guilt. She had become so focused on making money and gaining fame that she had forgotten why she started baking in the first place. That night, Mila returned to the bakery and sat quietly by the oven, reflecting on what had gone wrong. As she stared at the flickering flames, she realized that baking had never been about wealth or recognition. The magic in the bread had come from her love and passion for the craft, and when she lost sight of that, the magic disappeared. Determined to make things right, Mila pulled out the old book once again. This time, she read the recipe slowly, savoring each word. She gathered the ingredients, but when it came time to add a pinch of joy, she paused. Instead of thinking about success or wealth, she thought about the smiles on the villagers' faces when they first tasted her bread. She remembered the warmth of the kitchen, the comforting smell of the dough, and the simple pleasure of sharing her gift with others. As the bread baked, the bakery filled with the same magical energy she had felt before. When she pulled the loaves from the oven, they were even more perfect than before. The next morning, Mila returned to the market, carrying the fresh bread. The villagers were hesitant at first, but as soon as they tasted the new loaves, their faces lit up with smiles. "This is it," they exclaimed. "The bread of happiness is back." Word spread quickly, and soon, the bakery was filled with people once again. However, this time, Mila didn't rush or cut corners. She took her time, pouring love and care into every loaf she made. She didn't worry about fame or fortune. She was simply happy to bring joy to others through her baking. Master Oren, who had watched the entire journey unfold, finally spoke to Mila. "I knew you would find your way," he said. "The magic in baking isn't in the recipe. It's in the heart of the baker. You've learned the most important lesson of all. Mila smiled, understanding at last. She had discovered that true success wasn't measured by money or recognition, but by the joy she brought to others. From that day forward, she baked not for wealth or fame, but for the love of the craft and the happiness it brought to the people around her.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.